Hello, and welcome to Lunch and Learn, the Leads video podcast, where we take an in depth look at the art scene here in Lincoln and the arts industry as a whole. For our final episode of the year, Lunch and Learn is coming home for the holidays. Today, we'll be taking a look at one of Lincoln's most beloved local arts institutions, Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra. This year, the Symphony's annual December Deck the Halls concert is going digital, streaming the performance from the Lead Center main stage to bring your holiday favorites directly to your living room. We'll be joined on the show by acclaimed musician Tom Trenney, the concert's guest conductor, to talk about what it's like bringing the symphony to the cinema, his esteemed career, and how despite the chaos of 2020, there truly is no place like home or Lincoln for the holidays. I'm Ryan Savage, an education and outreach specialist here at the Lead. And joining me on the pod today for the first time is lead education intern Sapphire Toth. Hi, Sapphire.
Hi, Ryan. I am super excited to be on today.
I'm super excited to have you on as well, Sapphire. And for our viewers who don't know, Sapphire has been an integral part of putting Lunch and Learn together since she joined our team in August, from a behind-the-scenes perspective. So it's great to have you on so people can actually meet you. And I know I'm really excited to kick things off with our guest for today's episode. But before we begin, I just want to remind all our viewers that Lincoln Symphony Orchestra's Deck the Halls concert is a ticketed virtual event, and you can get your tickets to the stream on our website, www.leadcenter.org, under the tickets tab at the top.
Yes, the virtual concert will be available for streaming this coming Sunday, December 6th at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. So get your tickets today.
Yes, I know. I'm going to get mine today, so you guys should too. And alrighty, now for our guest, Tom Trenney. Folks, he's the guest conductor you'll catch on the stream during the Deck the Halls concert on Sunday. And he's joining us today to talk about his experience recording the concert, his exceptional career, and his advice on how we come together while staying at home. And it looks like we should have Tom here in a second. Go. Hi, Tom.
Good day. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Sapphire.
Hi. Tom, it's great to have you on, and I know I speak for the entire local arts community when I say that we are so grateful to have such a generous and outstanding musician like yourself here in Lincoln. When Sapphire and I were thinking of who to bring on for today's episode, we couldn't think of a better guest than yourself for a Lincoln-centered episode. And speaking of Lincoln, I know you're joining us today to talk a bit about the upcoming Lincoln Symphony Orchestra's Deck the Halls concert on Sunday. Can you tell our viewers a bit about what your role was in putting together the performance?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, what a joy it is to have had the opportunity to be with the symphony. You know, our Lincoln Symphony is such a treasure here in this city, and I feel so thankful during the time I've lived here to have different opportunities to partner with the symphony, sometimes preparing a choir to sing with them. I've played the organ as a soloist with the symphony, and certainly have enjoyed many programs from the audience. But in the midst of this pandemic, it became clear that it was going to be hard for them to bring in their normal guest conductor for this program. And it became clear that having an in-person concert was not particularly feasible or tenable at this moment. And so because I had had a relationship with several of the musicians who were going to be playing and was grateful to accept their kind invitation. So this is my first time to conduct actually a symphony concert. I've conducted orchestras many times with a choir, but this is my first time with the symphony. So even though it's a little bit virtual, it was very real, and I appreciated the opportunity an awful lot.
Yeah, and what's kind of, most of our viewers aren't conductors. So what does that responsibility feel like to be in charge of, leading this massive train? I've never conducted a symphony as well, so I'm interested in what you have to say too.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing because I think as a conductor, we do definitely lead and hopefully would inspire people to contribute in a full and beautiful way, the music that's born in them and that collectively can be born in us, which is such a powerful experience. But I think also a conductor, to a large extent, is a listener. It's essential that we're listening deeply to what we hear and have a vision for how what we hear might become what we think we might hear. And so there's always a bit of leading, but also listening. There's a little bit of following and figuring out what's the music that these particular people are being called to make in this particular moment. So I do think that's a fascinating process. And certainly for the people who were playing in this program, they hadn't played together as a symphony for many months, since before the pandemic began. And so these are people that were used to seeing each other and making music together very regularly. And it was a profound opportunity, I think, to kind of be back in the same room and to share the same space again after so long. We realized how much we missed that opportunity and that connection.
That's awesome. I'm sure I would have missed it as well. It's always great. That's one of the best parts about being a musician, is coming together and making music with others.
Yeah, I'm a music major right now, and making music with my peers has definitely been an interesting time, to say the least, with how the pandemic has affected us. So, Tom, as a performance major myself, as I said, I know how recording can feel very different from a live concert. But for our viewers who aren't quite familiar, can you please describe the process of filming the concert and how that differed from performing for a live audience?
Sure. Yeah. Interestingly, the idea of this becoming a recording was sort of a gradual process. Originally, this would have been an in-person event, and then it was to be an in-person event that was also streamed simultaneously. So it would have been a live experience that people would have also been able to see from home and hear from home. But then it became an only recorded event. And so we treated it as though there were actually, it was kind of fun. We treated it as though it was an actual program that was unfolding. And so I spoke in between pieces to an empty room full of chairs. And so there were people there. And my understanding was that they were going to be like putting in applause from previous LSO concerts in the places where people naturally would likely have applauded, just to make it more realistic. And yeah, and more a little bit less awkward maybe for the people watching at home. But the idea of it for us was, frankly, just enjoying the time together and imagining that even though there weren't people in the room with us right then, people would be are so much in need right now for experiences that are bright and light and hopeful and joyful and peaceful. And so I did feel like the orchestra really did have a sense of mission in what they were doing, that this was going to be a real gift to send to people at a time when we really need it, and that they might experience even from home some connection like we did being in the room together that day. So.
Yeah. And are there any benefits then to recording a concert? I know there's, of course, as musicians, we always feel like there's of course we can list all the negatives. We do that in everything. I feel like musicians are very nitpicky. But yeah. Is there anything that's a benefit or a pro to recording?
That's a good question. And I think in the video age, one thing I've heard people say is that they enjoy the videos because they can actually see people playing or singing more closely. They, for example, if I'm playing the organ or piano, people can see your hands move a lot better than they can from the umpteenth row of the lead center if there's a camera zooming in, and so I think there's potentially some advantages where you feel a little bit closer in a certain way. Having said that, there's nothing like experiencing music, I think, in the actual space, in the actual time. So much of what's really I think most profound about music is that it exists only in real time as we make it really. It takes human beings to do it. It's not there and then done. We can have recordings of it, but it's not as though people can go in and just add to the paintings on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Whereas
they probably get arrested.
Yeah. Whereas there is really no Bach until we start to give it life and breath, until we start to play it, until we start to inhabit it. Things get a little bit out of time when we record, but what actually happened actually did happen at one particular moment in time, and we share that moment, which is very special. In this case, there was no fancy editing or splicing. It's like just literally us playing together in that moment in a very honest and hopefully enjoyable way.
Yeah, I love that you get the true. It's as true of a live experience as you're really gonna get. So I'm super glad to hear that, and I'm excited to see it. And well, Tom, one of the reasons I think that you're so representative of the Lincoln arts community is your involvement across the city. Some of our viewers may know you from your work at Wesleyan or First Plymouth or Doane, I believe, as well. And you're incredibly accomplished. So I have to ask, for an artist of your caliber, with your professional experience composing, conducting, and performing, what brought you to Lincoln to begin with, and what's kept you here since?
Thanks for asking. I feel so grateful to have been really called here. The First Plymouth Church, where one of my one of my jobs had essentially kind of recruited me from my previous job in Michigan, and they called at a time I wasn't looking to move or to find a new position. But as I got to know more about the church and the community here, and the way that the arts community in Lincoln, especially, I've experienced it now for real for these last 12 years, is so collaborative, that the colleges work with the churches and the colleges work with one another, and the high schools and the colleges can work together, and the symphony can work with the colleges and the high schools and the churches, and all of that synergy, that we all have a sense in this community, that we become stronger in the things that we do together. The previous place I lived was Michigan, and it always felt much more like the auto mentality, that we have to build bigger, better cars faster than everybody else.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
there wasn't that sense of, not everybody can grow all the foods that they need, and not everybody can sweep up all the crops they need to. And so we have this sort of communal approach to life here. And I think that's a beautiful thing that I have been thankful to become a part of. And, now officially serving a college and the church, and seeing how that synergy works together, as well as, being invited by a symphony or some other organizations, and just seeing how all of that synergy, so many of the same people are supportive of so many of the same things. And this is a place that invites that in a very, I think, authentic and honest way. So we feel very grateful to be here.
That's great. So, I'm sure it's going to be really difficult to choose, but what would you say has been the most rewarding musical experience then that you've had within the community over the course of your time here?
Yeah, it would be very hard to choose. I've had so many beautiful experiences at the Leeds Center and here at First Plymouth, teaching the students at Doane, and now at Nebraska Wesleyan. And I suppose, some of the things that involve the most people are what are maybe the most poignant memories for me. For example, doing a Brahms Requiem here with many choirs together in the orchestra, and things like Elijah, the Messiah, and all of these sort of these works that require the most collaboration and community, and create a sense of unity and belonging for the people that are involved with them for the time that they're involved together. I think those are probably some of the more compelling things to look back on.
Very nice.
No, I totally agree. I feel like the best music is made when the most people are collaborating, because it just gives you so much to draw off of and affect your own creativity.
Mm-hmm. It is it takes a village to grow a musician. I really do think, and that we all kind of belong to one another. This is one of the challenges of this particular time, obviously, for those of us who love music and see it as a real beneficial force in creating unity and community, because, gatherings are things which normally are very healthy emotionally and artistically. And now I know that physically they are things that are very challenging for us in this moment. And so I think it's been helpful for me, as disappointing and discouraging as it may be, to not be able to do things the way we love to, and in the ways that we know are very powerful and meaningful to people. artistically and spiritually, we're still very much connected. I often think about that. Yeah, for maybe an hour, every couple of weeks, we all got together at the Lead Center in big groups. But the whole rest of the time, we were in our own places, in our own worlds, doing our own things. And yet we all still were inhabiting the same overall space together. And I often am saying to the choir, even if we're all singing in our own homes, the fact that we're singing, that we're all still singing is what really matters. From God's perspective, I don't know that we're any more distant now than we ever were. Think about how we're spread throughout the whole world, and in many continents, in many communities, in many places. And the fact that these kind of virtual gatherings, like we'll experience with the symphony this week, can bring us even from the safety of our own homes to a focal point of being together for a moment, I think that's still very valuable. And again, it's a different kind of gathering and unity than what we're used to, but I think one that's still can be very powerful and meaningful.
Awesome. Well, Tom, we're really thankful that you were able to join us today. So thank you so much for all your expertise, your perspective, and for talking with us today. It was lovely. And again, folks, you can get the tickets to the Lincoln Symphony Orchestra's Deck the Halls concert and see Tom live and in action, like he said, on our website, www.leadcenter.org. So thank you so much for joining us today, Tom.
Thank you. It's good to be with you. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for being on here, Tom.
Thank you. I feel like I have to adjust. I don't know if people can probably tell I have some weird light that's coming into my room right now. So now I feel like I'm in the light. That was God right there while we had Tom joining us.
It's all good. They probably saw me make a weird face when my eyelashes got stuck together a few seconds ago. So we're all good.
Alrighty. Yes. Yeah. So what do you think, Sapphire? As a student, you just went through a semester yourself of all this distance learning, distance performance. Do you agree with some of the things that Tom was saying about navigating it and how you're able to come together even while being apart?
Oh, absolutely. If anything, musicians have learned throughout the years that we have to be adaptable. It's just the truth. Whenever the economic or a social situation changes, and this is, while different than, say, a typical economic or social change, it's still very pertinent. And so musicians have learned to be super adaptable. Like, look at the UNL Jazz Choir. They have been so amazing in making their videos and finding ways to still perform and make music for people in a not necessarily typical environment. And what Tom said really is resonant with me about how we need to still find ways to make music together, whether it's without an audience or maybe in some situations the musicians can't even be together. That's the reality of it right now. And I think musicians are finding a pretty good way to adjust to that reality.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think that it's not, you're right. I love what you said. It's not really that different. I mean, of course it is monumental, but to facially for musicians and for artists, we're used to having to navigate these things, which is why I know I'm really proud to be part of the Lead Center, because we've been able to figure out, we were one of the first performing arts centers to open in the United States, and we did so safely, and we've been able to give art to the community and be able to serve the community and serve out our mission. And you're right. I think that there is that nature of knowing how to pivot and knowing how to navigate difficult situations that is just almost like an intrinsic personality trait in any musician and any artist. But yes, now we're coming to close out with one of my favorite segments of Lunch and Learn, what we're watching this week. So you can tune in on some of the best content that the industry has to offer. And I'm looking forward to the Lead Center's presentation of Hannah Houston's Believe in Christmas concert. For all you out there craving your annual December trip to the Lead, you aren't going to want to miss this one. It'll be a free live stream concert on Tuesday, December 15th at 7:30 p.m. And you can reserve your live stream access on the Lead's website. And if Hannah Houston sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you'll recognize her from the hit TV show The Voice. In 2016, Hannah, then a preschool teacher, auditioned for season 10 of the show, ultimately finishing up as the second runner-up and launching a successful performance career. So clearly I just need to get on The Voice, and then everything will just, the ball be rolling, right, Sapphire?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
You're probably going to end up on Team Nick Jonas, so you guys can fight over whose hair is better.
Oh my God.
So it'll be great.
But yeah, if you are craving some Christmas magic, Christmas tunes, this is a live stream you won't want to miss.
And then in terms of what I've been watching for a little bit of Christmas joy right now while we're waiting for Hannah's concert, myself and some friends have been diving into the Netflix rom-com Christmas universe. If you didn't know, they have their own cinematic universe for that. So that's been great. If you're looking for something a little more action-packed, I recommend The Queen's Gambit on Netflix or The Boys on Amazon Prime. While the holiday is just beginning, I love getting into the festive spirit with that rom-com universe. And then the cast of The Queen's Gambit and The Boys all perform just amazingly. Though, as a composition major, of course, my favorite things in those shows are the scores by Carlos Rivera on The Queen's Gambit and Chris Leonard on The Boys. So if you're looking for some action-packed suspense, either of those series are great.
Wow. You know, I feel like Netflix is trying, that's Netflix, right?
So The Queen's Gambit, that is on Netflix, and then The Boys is on Amazon Prime.
Okay. I feel like all the streaming services are trying to give Hallmark for a run, you know, during the Christmas season and coming out with their own content. Because
honestly, why not? Just combine Hallmark and Marvel. You got it. Perfect.
I feel like that's right up your alley, Sapphire. So maybe we should do an episode on that.
Absolutely.
And if you enjoyed spending time with us today, we encourage you to donate to the Lead Center Ovation campaign to ensure the arts and programming like this remain an essential part of the Lincoln community. You can find the donation link on our website. It is Giving Tuesday, so we would love if you could give to the Lead Center if we are a member of the community that you really value and you really collaborate with and that you work with. So we would love that. And that just wraps up this episode of Lunch and Learn. We'll be back up with a new episode on Tuesday, January 5th. So keep an eye out on Facebook and be sure to mark your calendars. And finally, a special thanks to Stephen Colonna in the virtual control room, Liv LeBlanc, Lauren Durbin, Ellie Feiss, Quinn Sleddens, and Matthew Boring in marketing, and Sasha Dobson and Jane Schermeyer Hansen in the education department. This series would not be possible without their support and hard work. And before we sign off today, we have a special holiday tune that Tom recently recorded during his ministry at First Plymouth. It's the perfect song to close your eyes to and melt in the music. From everyone at the Lead Center, thank you all for joining us as we've moved through this wild 2020 together. And we'll catch you on the pod in the new year. Just remember, the true spirit of the season is hope for a better tomorrow. And COVID or no COVID, that's something we can always hold on to. Here's to a better tomorrow, Lunch and Learners. Stay tuned to the stream.
Bye, guys.
It came upon Which